Keaukaha Action Network, we know that our community has a lot to do during the summer. A lot of people, hopefully they straddle in. But my name is Terry Napiahi. I'm a resident of Keaukaha. Last night, what you attended was our community association meeting, and it was, luckily we have a community that actually has a meeting once every month. Some other communities have it maybe every quarter. But we do because we have a lot of people that use our community for presentations to bring light to, because our district is pretty busy. We have all the industry and businesses and the Hawaiian home community dealing with issues here. So we separated our community meetings because of the issues that we decided to take on. And they're actually very pretty heavy issues, and it's been ongoing for years. And we decided to take on these challenges for almost 4.5 years now, going on 5. And it's about our health and safety. We believe that we have a very high cancer morbidity rate. We're related to half of the people in this community, so we can tell when we have to attend funerals. And funerals, knowing what kind of, what kind of issues they had before they died. We have been approached by several toxic facilities. We've identified 7 major toxic facilities that have actually emit pollution into the air, ground, land, including noise from our airport. If you have a chance to go to the fence line, you'll see how close our residents are to the runway. And this runway came after we were here. Our community was one of the first, Hawaiian homes community put together in 1920. It's a Hawaiian Commissions Act where the Department of Interior put together the trust so that we could rehabilitate our Hawaiians and put them on the land. So we were the first here on this island in 1921. The very first in the state of Hawaii was in Oahu. So we've been here that long. Our airport was here, built in 1926, but the terminal and this new runway next to our families came in the early 60s. They had to move. They moved about 4 blocks of our families. Eminent domain had no choice, and they had to move. So, and moved and relocated to another part of Hilo. And we've had to endure the noise and the fumes. So these are the things that we're going to be talking about tonight. So before I give you guys the floor, and I've only got a little bit of time, there's a PowerPoint presentation that I'm going to be giving to the County Council. So I did, it's not complete because there are some slides that I have to add that I'm working on some data. And this PowerPoint is actually going to be August 1st in front of the County Council Chambers, the Environmental Management Committee. I've asked to be on the agenda just to put everybody on notice so that they know that we're actually honing in on these issues. So these are some of the issues that we're dealing with. DOT airport, gas storage facilities, you passed them on the way over here. All of these were put in after we lived here. Wastewater treatment, right in front of our community. We had no choice. Our grandparents stood there with signs saying, don't put it here. They did it anyway, and they put it there, and we're dealing with the impacts right now. We've seen the degradation of our coral and marine life, and we're suspecting it has a relationship with the health of our people after swimming in our waters. So wastewater treatment is an issue. Fuel burning power facilities. You're going to see this as we move on. So this is a map, and I'm going to give you guys a copy of this, and I can email you this PowerPoint so you can have this. This was done by a student that came to offer her help. She's she's an amazing person. She's got some credibility in her background, but she's a psychologist. She also has a doctorate in public health. She is with the Johns Hopkins Medical School, and she has expertise in spatial analyses on a GIS mapping for public health. So she actually is doing her graduate studies here, hoping to publish her findings. So what she did was put together all the documents that I've got. I was told in order for me to go and start telling everybody that, you know, these facilities are making our families sick, I was told, you gotta go find data, Terry, and prove that. We've been doing that for four and a half years now. So what she did, and this is hot off the press, she actually took all those facilities that you saw, and well, just the ones, she actually took all the facilities that are non-compliant. When I say non-compliant, they're non-compliant to EPA regulations and thresholds. So in other words, they've been emitting pollution for decades, with no checks and balances. So what we were trying to prove is environmental justice. You know, we believe that we're carrying the disproportionate burden of toxic facilities on this entire island, and this map shows you that. Right here is, the green is where all the Hawaiian homes are on the entire island, and the facilities, or the red dots, are the facilities, industry that emits pollution, and they're all right next to our community. They're either on Hawaiian homelands or near it. And these are all non-compliant. So like I said earlier, we're trying to let everybody know that we're thinking this is an environmental justice issue, and that something needs to be done. We have another map that shows our census of Native Hawaiian enrollment, not enrollment, but Native Hawaiian percentage of blood quantum on the entire island. So you can't see it, it's a little fuzzy here, but the darkest brown is the percentage of 51 to 100% Native Hawaiians with the census. So she took all of that and color-coded it so that it will show you where our purebloods are, and that would show that they're in Hilo, in Keaukaha and Panaeva, our Hawaiian homelands here in Hilo. And these are, again, the non-compliant facilities. So if you look on the other side, you see a facility there that's from Kona. And that facility is actually near Hawaiian homelands. So if we can do something like this to compare other islands, to show the other industries and where they're placed, they'll probably be on our lands. And we just think that's wrong. So this is Kona. The airport is next to our Hawaiian homelands. The fuel burning facility is right next to our Hawaiian homeland, so we've actually proven that to be true.
Terry, excuse me, do you know
Yes.
what the air monitors, you know what they're monitoring for?
Yes, the air monitors were placed by Elizabeth Tam when we had concerns of the VOG. So the air monitors were placed by the Department of Health and the help of the university to monitor the VOG, so that they can let our people know to be aware when it's heavy. But they don't monitor anything else. It's not placed anywhere for anything else but the VOG. So this is Hilo. And the other, we might change the color of the schools, but you'll see where the majority of our schools are in Hilo. And so they're a concern as well. We have several schools in our community, and that is something that we're concerned about, our children. We have several families that have passed and of cancer, and our goal to one day is to have cancer clustering. Johns Hopkins Medical School of Public Health and this student, their expertise that the professor she's working with is an expert in cancer clustering. So we're hopefully one day able to actually get to that point. We want her data to be credible, so she cannot participate in human collected data that I do. I can do that, and she can help me with how to collect the data and place them on a chart so that it could be used. I can use it. But for her to publish, it has to go through her professor in her school and get it approved. And that, she's gonna be doing that anyway. Okay, so next one. Now, in 2050, the governor, right, am I correct, Sue? This is Sue Leroy, our district councilwoman. It is going to be changing over, converting all cesspools to sewage system, a sewage system. And our sewage system is actually shown here under all that. So it's just a little, the slides might need to be moved during my presentation, and you can tell me later on what you think. But this is a slide of all the cesspools that are in Hilo that needs to be converted into a sewage pipe. So we found out from our Department of Environmental Manager here that our sewage pipe is actually not in full capacity. But we believe that the cumulative impact that it's had in our ocean and our human health is actually something to look at. You know, so if you're going to be using it at full capacity, you're going to have problems on your hand with our community at least, because we don't want it here. We do not want the outfall. I think there's other alternatives, and I think they're looking at something better than that because the faulty pipes are not working, and that's something that I'm going to bring up at our county council. This HELCO is one of the worst polluters that we have here. And I kind of put this, you know, pretty, yeah? But it's actually grandfathered in. What does that mean, grandfathered in? Meaning, I was told, you'll never be able to shut them down. And for me, it never say never. Because it is a cancer-producing facility. The health of people cannot continue to have this running every single day and falling within their community. And so we're going to do an analysis on cancer clustering here first, and then we're going to try to see if we can move around the facility on Panaema and also Hilo, Waiakea, in that area around this facility. It's across of our runway, right next to our other Hawaiian homes community. And these are the chemicals that are produced from burning fuel. So nitrogen oxide, sulfur dioxide, and carbon monoxide. These are really bad chemicals. But, so we're going to have to figure out how to get this remedy because we cannot continue to have this, right, County, in our community. Next one. So I have had a difficult time today trying to get the data to prove their non-compliance. I'm going to be putting it, I have to kind of condense it and reduce it, cut and paste, so that it'll fit in my slides. But I have all the non-compliance records from EPA. I have them all, and I'm going to be showing them there. So just believing that they are non-compliant. Okay, Hilo wastewater treatment, Puhi Bay is right out here. This is just a little bit of record of their non-compliance. In 2014, wastewater treatment had EPA come down, and they were at an administrative order that they needed to fix and repair the pipes, leaky pipes out in the outfall, which is only a quarter mile out from the shoreline, and repair it before June of 2015. And they've asked for several extensions. EPA cannot give them any more extensions, so they just gave a report of their repairs. They had to come up with repairs. They got some allocation from bonds, I think, to fix it. And I just got it from the Department of Environmental Manager and EPA that May of this year, they completed the repairs that they needed to have gotten done in 2015 to run their facility. So that was a court order from the Fed level. But it's not working. So they found some other things that are wrong on land, and that's what we were really worried about, because the cracks on land is, I'll show you. I'm sorry. There. Can you see that? That's the sewage system in Hilo. And that little, right here is where it's across the runway. They used to have the raw sewage done in the front of our community. They moved it across to the runway, across the bus, dug a hole underneath the runway, and attached it to the old pipes. So it's, it's maybe over there, but it's still going out the same place. But the pipes are corroded, they're not, you'll see here where it goes. This is the shoreline, and it goes actually, these are the pipes that go out into the ocean. And there's something wrong with the pipes here, and the manholes. They're having a very difficult time finding out what's going on with this, but this is what we're worried about, because come low tide, this place stinks, and you can smell it, it's terrible. We grew up smelling hydrogen sulfide at very low levels every single day, all day, our whole life. So even though they moved the sewage on the opposite side, we can still smell it once in a while because the pipes are not good anymore. So these are the pipes on the outside. I have more slides to show. I'm going to add that to them. But this is what we're worried about. They laid these down to cover the leaks that they had. They were ordered to do that by Army Corps of Engineers and also EPA, and to get these pipes fixed. We're worried about the coral colonies, and we believe that they are not healthy, and probably the reason why we've met with some coral experts, and probably the reason why our marine life is also depleted to a percent where we've seen it abundant. I can tell you that it was abundant. We ate from the shorelines before the sewage pipes were here. Okay, this is some of the things that we were worried about, staff and MRSA. We've never been worried about that before. In our culture, whenever you're sick, whenever you have, we call it kaki'os or sores, you go to the ocean to get healed. And it's part of our culture. We've done that all our lives. When you go sick, it's salt water, and it's purification and washing, and that's our culture. You can't do that anymore. You can't. If you got sores, you do not go to the ocean anymore, because we have multiple accounts of people getting sick, and they only test for one bacteria, and that's enterococci, well, two bacteria from fecal matter, and that's enterococci and Clostridium. We're asking DOH and our regulators to test something else, test the waters for more bacteria that, And I was told by a microbiology engineer, that it's probably thriving because there's a lot of high nutrients in the water, probably created from fecal matter that's probably in the sand, on the shoreline. A lot of it that's making our staff grow much more abundant. So when people go, we've got multiple accounts. So I'm actually sharing some of these accounts with people. So we have, finally, 4.5 years I've asked a lot of our families to come and share their stories. And they're finally sharing, and I'm going to be sharing some of these accounts. So what I asked them to do was to give me the date, the place, the area that they swam, the symptoms, what doctor they went to see, if they had a diagnosis, and if they were able to share with us the doctor's diagnosis and doctor's paperwork. Some of them did say that the doctors recommend that they don't swim, and because they've had multiple accounts of people coming to the doctors with staph and MRSA at a very high count. We don't have that number. It's something that we'd have to go look at or look for at the hospitals, at the urgent care, at private doctors, for us to get that kind of data. But we're starting with the Hilo Hospital, because if you have staph that turn into MRSA, that is something that you really need to go to the hospital for. And other places will probably send you there. So we're working with the Hilo Hospital right now, and there might be some data we have to purchase so that we can get the actual numbers to show how frequent our families are going after swimming in our shoreline. So these are different places. We have some at Puhi Bay, we have some at Puhi and Richardson's, and we have some that are at Keaukaha, some that went to Richardson, so it's all along our coastline, and even Hilo Bay. Hilo Bay is pretty bad. These are all the places that our recreational activities are done. Hilo Bay, Puhi Bay, and all along the shoreline. So these are some of the things that we're asking, for them to look at. Gas storage companies, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm not. Where's my slideshow? Sorry. Gas storage. Okay, the gas storage companies over here. Aloha Petroleum is the one nearest to our families here. Aloha Petroleum in 2014, the same time that the wastewater treatment had a violation, they also had one for storage overflow, and they had to clean it up. They were fined $650,000 because they weren't complying. And the thing is, we don't know how long this was going on. This is the first time that they've ever actually come. But I have data that will show that Aloha Petroleum has been non-compliant for several years. But this time, EPA came down and they actually told them they had to fix a lot of stuff that was going to cost them millions of dollars. They decided, I got the report from EPA and the Hazard Evaluation Emergency Response Team saying that they actually decided to close. They voluntarily closed and also closed the pipes. We were concerned that they were going to have the pipes running and using the pipes. And so they're just using this facility right now for their trucks and storing their trucks. They're not using it for storing any, but we would like them to take it down. You know what I mean? Take it down and clean up, because so they're giving me the data. EPA is going to send me the data of what their cleanup was, because there was thousands and thousands and thousands of gallons into the ground. And that was right across the parking lot. Walking distance across the street. This was going on for decades. And what do? We have people in the front street that have reported COPD, right? It's a lung disease, am I correct? Breathing, cannot breathe. So we have one family in there and that has lived right next to the wastewater treatment, and also the gas storage company having all this going on, and both family members in that one particular house in front of this area has COPD. And this is another issue that we're looking at in addition to the cancer clustering. Okay, so Sue, the landfill. The landfill also, okay, the landfill is right across of us, across the airport, next to the military reservation, Keaukaha military reservation. But it's been there for a long time and non-compliant for very, very, very long. So they're discussing, and I wanted you to kind of explain a little bit of what's going on with the landfill so everybody knows what's going on with the landfill. They're actually non-compliant also. And Sue, can you do that? Sure. Because I did that because you're over there. That's her.
So aloha, thank you. So I'm gonna back up a little bit. 22 years ago, I used to work for the Hawaiian Council, and we developed what was known as the Solid Waste Management Plan, which provided a game plan on how to start handling all of our solid waste. Right around the same time, the Department of Health notified the county that we would need to start closing down that landfill. Because it was built so long ago, it's not lined. So with new EAP mandates, they mandated that the landfill get closed. Since that time, the county, over the last, I want to say 16 years, I'm guessing, just I haven't really dug deep on that one. has asked for various time extensions because they really didn't know how to manage that waste. Since that time, they've opened a landfill over in Kona, which is Puanahulu, built to EPA standards. So it's lined, it's covered every night. But that didn't address closing the Hilo landfill. In addition to the time extensions, they were also able to get capacity extensions if they followed various rules where you could put stuff into the landfill, but they would have to cover it every night. So right now, all of those extensions are done. And a month ago, the council floated a $20 million bond to begin the closure process of the landfill. Now, there's a whole bunch of other rules related to mining, because there's just a lot of recyclables, some other things in the landfill that, you know, over 20 years, people just threw away back then. We didn't have recycling programs back then. So Department of Health and some other rules doesn't allow us to mine some of that material out. So basically, we just have to cover it and monitor it. On the flip side, Kona was going through the same thing. They had an unlined dump, and they had to shut it down. That wasn't done with the proper fill, and it started a fire. All of that gases started a fire. So that Kona landfill, till today, is on fire and has slowly deflated. They're addressing that issue, but now we have Puanahulu, so we don't want the same thing to happen here. So with that $20 million bond, we're going to be covering it. The Department of Environmental Management has a lot of new technology on different covering materials and ways to allow the gases to escape so it doesn't burn like the other one does. And then we still have to figure out the plan on what we're going to do with the solid waste. There was a period of time that the plan was to truck our solid waste over to Kona. But a previous council didn't want that, which is what caused a lot, kind of compounded a lot of the problems. So we're back to that. What are we going to do with the solid waste that we're already generating? How are we going to manage that? With some of the recycling programs that we have in place now, we're hopeful that not as much will need to be trucked. And then the other piece is the composting facility. Unfortunately, we decided to plan that right adjacent to the current landfill, which is the same homestead community would be carrying the burdens of that all over again. So they canceled that contract and they're now looking at other alternative sites to handle the composting. So we're floating a bond to close the landfill, and then we're floating another contract to look at a composting facility to handle the solid waste. So that's where we are.
Awesome. That's a good thing.
Yeah, it's a good thing. We're trying to
We
move
don't
it.
want it to blow up.
Yeah.
It's right next to DOT airport, and so they were worried about it. The fumes, methane, everything igniting, from jets. So yes, can you please move? So we're grateful for that. Storage. Not everybody knows that the harbor actually houses fertilizer, some chemicals, and they also, the reason why some of our gas storage companies are here, because it's convenient for harbors. They're bringing in and out chemicals through our harbor. And we then again have to keep carrying the burden, of this. And I think when they had the tidal wave in 1960s, the 60s, right? They had an opportunity, I was told, that they had an opportunity to move the gas storage tanks further inland, but that never happened. So that's an issue now. But the other issue about our storage, and I left this for last, was because we have a concern about emergency response. We can turn the light on, I think. And then you can give me some input about this, but how I'm gonna kind of, end up with a conclusion of my presentation, and you can let me know how we should, lead into that. But the harbors are a concern with the gas storage companies because of emergency response. We have an emergency plan from our county, and I think Sue, she gave me that. I'm actually going through this. But this is our, right? This is our emergency evacuation plan and mitigation plan for, in case there's a disaster. And that disaster would be hurricane or and tsunami. We're actually in a tsunami zone. We're all mostly, and we've been through tsunamis several times, and we only have one way out of here on this front street. So the evacuation routes are behind us, on the fence line. We have multiple families, over 200 families that live within a noise attenuation, a mitigation zone that DOT supposedly put monitors in, noise monitors, so that we could check the noise decibels, that they're in compliance. Only we've never had any reports given to our families since they were placed. I'm trying to retrieve that in documentation. I was told I would have to go through Office of Information Practices to get the data. We've never gotten it, and they know that I've asked for them. So they also have a clear zone. I know you guys know what that means. Clear zone, and we found that out, that a clear zone is a crash zone. And a lot of our families are in that crash zone. We have 2 airport runways that go like this, so one going this way and the other one going that way. So the one that's going this way, the shorter runway, is the one used for crash, for potential crashes. We've had a couple misses in our community. We didn't even know that. I'm sorry, I lived here all my life, and it wasn't until Rick Takimoto from that surveying company that we asked to go and redo the environmental assessment to show us his findings, and after he's consulted with all of these companies that were not put on the environmental assessment, actually. And it's just sad. What is an environmental assessment? You're doing an environmental impact assessment on the people that you have to mitigate, that are near it, and we didn't even know that. And they didn't even put that on. So they had to redo it, and that's when we found out that there was a clear zone here. And so today is a helicopter noise issue. One of the things that a student is going to do is to put the flight plans on mapping so that you can see the flight plans and how they go over our community, over our schools, and the impact. So what they have done to mitigate the noise is to muffle or insulate some of our houses. And not all of us get to get that, what do you call it? Service. The fact that there are over 200 people that need the service, they're saying that they don't have the monies to complete that, to service our families. That's ridiculous, that's your responsibility. How do we, this is what I'm going to ask you, you guys are the experts, how do we change this kind of issues? They're not going to do anything about it just because. I'm not going to take that until I die. We've got to come up with some remedy. They fly people to the moon, they can come up with some kind of remedy, So these are the things that, we have with issues at the DOT airport. The noise. No one's taken into consideration the air quality. There are no air monitors here to test the particulates that are actually in the air. So we're asking, and in this presentation, I've been asking since day one a cumulative health impact study on these facilities and the pollution. So I think I have enough evidence to show the non-compliance and how close they are to our families. Finding, slowly but surely the health problems and illnesses that our families are going, just to get them to share and not feel afraid to share their illnesses and their sicknesses and their reports. I'm gathering them a little by little. And this is the survey. So on this, I'm going to add, and it's this survey it's the first one that we're putting through our community. Our people are so non-trusting of people coming in here. We've had so many agencies come to use, because we're a great target. We're the group of people that have the highest disparities, and we're in one little area. So why not use that community to go and service? So what they do is they come up with projects or they have funding, and then they go and come to our community to offer this funding. They're so used to being used that way, and these projects never pan out, and they never get completed. So our families don't, they're very, very leery about organizations coming with their services unless they show some kind of trusting, credible ideals, to our families. So moving and shaping our families is not easy. They've been hurt so many times. They have PTSD, I think that word is that. They've been moved once before. And there's a generation of our elders that are afraid to open their mouth because they were the ones that experienced that. And if they said, keep your mouth shut, and willing to be in this kind of situation because they were afraid that they were going to have to move again. So doing all this, bringing up this, didn't come with some criticism, and it didn't come with some resistance, from my own community, which I knew was going to happen. What I knew I had to do was to show proof of something that wasn't coming from my opinion. It had to be shown with data, your facility data, your regulatory agency data, and put them on something like you saw today. And this is like the first time anybody has ever seen this map done like this before in the entire state. And hopefully with this information, we can use this as a comparison to the other islands, and you'll probably see the same thing, that our families carry the disproportionate burden of industrial pollution. And there's got to be something done. We have lots of our families that are dying of cancer. I'm not going to get emotional. I live on the fence line. And I live right smack in front of Touching Wall, in front of the terminal. I lost a brother at age 39. And at least one or two members of the homes that live on my street, someone died of cancer. So as I went through the community to take this survey, it was a survey that didn't hone in on just, did you have cancer? It's just, what are you concerned about? And then we'll list them down on a chart. But I got a chance to meet other families on the other streets that have had the same numbers of deaths and cancer. I'm not even sure if they're all related, if they're the same, but I'm sure going to get there. I'm sure as heck going to get there to show the clustering in our community. And hopefully it's not going to be long. But this is where we're at. With this presentation, we're asking for a cumulative health study to be done for our community. And hopefully we can find answers, because our elders are dying. People of my generation, I just lost my classmate. I think he was the last one that died on the fence line of cancer. And his brothers and sisters died before him. They're a little older, and they died. I think he had maybe 2 or 3 other siblings that died of cancer as well. So you see the urgency and why I do this. This is just one. And having this presentation at the council is important. It needs to be heard. So we don't want the sewage plant here. We don't want the outfall. We don't want the sewage going into the ocean. I have a picture of a map, and you can have that handout, but it's a map of all the outfalls on the island. They have a plan of getting everybody converted to the sewage pipe, and that's just gonna have to they're gonna have to figure out another alternative way to deal with the sewage. And hopefully, and you know, we're working with our government, because they know that this is wrong. I know they know that. I know they're up against politics, bureaucracy, and money, but we're gonna find it. So, emergency response, legislation tonight. First of all, do you guys have any suggestions to my PowerPoint? It's not finished right now because there's the violations that I'm going to add, but in conclusion, what I'm looking for is remedy, a cumulative health study, also a checks and balances on the non-compliance to all these facilities, and why are they still running in operations, even if they're grandfathered in, to run non-compliant. You know, that is just not right. And then emergency response. One of the things that we were worried about was the gas storage company. And there's a big round natural gas tank less than 300 feet away from our residence. We are concerned because there are several leaks throughout the years, cumulative leaks for decades, that have made people sick, you know, and then they have to assess it for a little while and then try to see what's going on. But we were worried that if there was an explosion, was our emergency response team, our first responders, equipped and trained for this issue? And no, they're not. You know, I found out from our first responders, the local emergency planning committee, that they have some equipment. But if there was a disaster with a blowout in our harbor or near our families, they wouldn't be able to assess it because they don't have the proper equipment, and they don't have the funding to be fully equipped. That's not good either. So we're looking for remedies for that. So I came up with a suggestion, and that's what I'm talking about tonight. And it's been racking my brain for a couple of months now, because I've had to gather information. The idea was to have an asset fund put together, like the one that PGV, Puna Geothermal Venture has. In the state of Hawaii in the early 70s or 80s, they did some explorations for geothermal, thinking that it was a clean alternative way of getting energy besides burning fuel. However, they needed to get to Puna on the rift. They decided that's the hottest portion of our island, and that's being, on the rift where the lava flow is, and that would be in Puna. So they were going to build several geothermal plants and take this energy, 500 megawatts, and take it to Oahu to help light up Oahu. And they had some resistance and didn't manage to do that, so they ended up with just one geothermal company, PGV in Kapoho. And the idea might still be floating around to have geo, but there's community members in Puna that are just totally completely against having that, and they found reasons why. But one of the things that they have is an asset fund, a geothermal asset fund. They have two funds. One that is done by legislation, and it is also done by the state of Hawaii at that time, because it was the state's initiative. And they actually did a legislative bill saying all geothermal plants will go and add to this royalty fund, or asset fund. And that was done through ledge. And then they have another fund that was used for relocation, for emergency response for the people in Puna. That was voluntary. But because of the impacts that they would have on the community. So we figured, why aren't these other companies, right? Why aren't they doing the same? Why aren't they contributing to this as well? So we were thinking about getting this asset fund done, and how we could figure out on the map, like the maps you saw, how to come up with a boundary, a little circle, and kind of make a big circle, so everybody that's here and has an impact on this community would have to contribute to this asset fund. so that it goes to emergency response. So guys, what do you guys think? Well, the emergency responders liked it, but there's, they in fact support it. I've been throwing this in their ear. They're all for it and they support it. However, it's a little tricky because we wanted it to stay county level. We wanted county to have the opportunity of how they're going to take care of this funding. The other funding for geothermal statewide was 20% went to OHA, it's a Hawaiian organization. 30% goes to county. Is it our county, right? Our county. And 50% goes to the state, which is the whole state. So geothermal, PGV in Puna has been contributing to that, and I don't know if they do that forever as long as they're existing. It's a forever funding. So we figured we'd do the same for these facilities. So I went through this legislative bill. I think we're going to be presenting first. We were going to present it to the county council. She was going to help me with Darren to help write this asset fund. But there's a trick to this. You know, state, DOT is a state entity. County cannot tell the state entity to contribute to their asset fund. You know, so, and then you have HELCO, which is supported by PUC. Isn't that state, right? Don't they have, so you're gonna have some problems with it being you know, a county level dispersed monies. You know, so then we thought, okay, we don't want state to have it because then it's gonna go for everybody else but the intention for it being used here. So I've talked to some other county council members from the past and they said, Terry, you know, maybe you should do an open space fund, which is a 2% fund that comes to an open space. I read the whole thing, and it's not actually addressing something like this. This would be completely new. So this would have to come up with something that a referendum that Sue would have to implement. So that was something why I brought it up today. And then there's another way to do this, and this would be something completely controlled by our community, where it would be an asset fund of emergency response for the people that are within this, you know, this designated area, completely controlled by our community. That was a better way because then you don't have to go through all the bureaucracy, procurements and everything, right? I don't know. Sue, that's why I brought you here. Can you tell me about, you know, what our chances are of this actually taking into fusion? Because I was told it's going to take a while for this to actually happen.
Yeah, the trick is a lot of times, especially like with PGV, you had to go through a regulatory permit process. So during that process, they were saddled with conditions of approval. And so that's how the geothermal asset fund kind of was born, was through this regulatory process. Unfortunately, like you mentioned, a lot of these industries already exist. And then, you know, just to share, and you know, part of the presentation, I know that the ask is for a cumulative health study. I think it would be helpful to identify all of those industries that lay within, and I think I did the measurements, it's probably under 2 miles. So we would have
Buffer.
just between our, like Keaukaha and Panaeva, we have the harbor, we have the fuel tank storage, we have the landfill, we have the bus terminal, we have Helco, we have the most industrial lands, right?
Yes, we do.
KIAA is, portions of that is DHHL.
It's DHGL.
Yeah. So all of those assets are immediately adjacent to within, I would say 2 miles is reasonable, but I mean, we have, it's 300 feet away.
Less than.
So it's less than,
300 feet
would be
away.
less.
So good.
It's those assets or industries, however you want to frame that, is what's driving this ask for the cumulative health study. Because standalone, maybe not, but collectively, that's why this immediate ask for the cumulative health study. I think that would be powerful.
So that would
For
be like first. So this is,
And I
you're
think,
kind of going into where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
So to identify the CR, it's a CRA, the risk implementation of these facilities. You know, what level of risk do they have to this particular community? And once you identify that, then you can ask for a cumulative health study that would include epidemiology, right? Right? Epizoological, zoology, which is something that's in the water. And there are other areas that, you know, I could base it on. So I did not have time to do that, but at our county
I will
council,
connect some more, but I think if in that PowerPoint where you lay out all of those assets, you know, the wastewater treatment plant, the fallout, you know, all of this, which equates to this ask, I think that would be extremely powerful in your
for a cumulative health study, which would include the ask for an asset fund to help fund emergency responders to prevent any harm to our people, which could happen, right? And they're not equipped to do that. And then also for monitoring, that is the other reason. So I have Surfrider chapter supporting our endeavors for a better monitoring system, okay? Because we found that it is not adequate. You know, we have our regulatory agencies like the Department of Health who are looking over wastewater treatment. They both have been pointing fingers at each other and saying, well, that's their responsibility, that's our responsibility. We brought them to our table and asked them all the questions we wanted to, and that's on that handout. To ask, you know, what bacteria do you look for? How often do you look for it? And are you looking in the areas of concern, like the outfall, and whose responsibility is that? And so some of the justification for not having adequate monitor readings was because they didn't have the funding. Department of Health does not have the funding to be able to hire. So we've had multiple spills in our pipes. Several within the last 6 months.
6 months.
In the last 6 months, we've had multiple. And the majority of them were out in our bay, this coastline. So the monitor guy is in Kona. He's not here. So his excuse was to us, we take that, is because they're short-handed and they don't have enough people to go around monitoring. I said, but we need somebody, you know, so how do you come up with why they station you there? And how do you come up with the tiers that make you identify where you should and should not test? You gotta read the criteria, which I think is so racist, you know, because the criteria is by economics. You know, I mean, that is just unbelievable. When I read the criteria as to how they figure out the tier, it's the recreational activities that are being done, the amount of, you know, how they test here, and economics, money. We bear the burden of the industry in this entire island, but we're not the ones with the money, so we'll put them over there. And by the way, that's the reason why we don't test here. It's not as important, is what I'm saying. Now, this is my opinion, of course, but I think I can prove it. I can prove it to you. So we don't have a monitor guy over here. So, thank goodness, with all of this bringing up to the table, we have Surfrider chapter that is going to be collaborating with Keaukaha Action Network. We have found a facility that could do our sample testing at the university. We're hoping that they can do that. You know, I don't have clout, so I asked Dr. Carl Berg, who is doing the testing in Hawaii. He has the facility, he has the equipment to test. He would do my testing, but it takes 6 hours for me to take my sampling and get it to him. We need the test kits, we need the facility to have it. So he's working right now. As of yesterday, I emailed him the contacts to our university lab that said they would do our testing. but they would like to have and work with Surfrider Chapter to have our own monitoring done by and so I wanted to have her stand up and just kind of explain what Surfrider Chapter is and what an asset they would be to our community. Introduce yourself.
Okay.
Laura.
Yep, I'm Laura Ocasio, and we are a very small chapter in Hilo. We would like to grow, but realistically, this is the best collaboration because we need purpose behind the testing. And one of the big endeavors that Surfrider undertakes is a clean water task force. And so Kauai chapter, Maui chapter has been testing regularly, and I believe even the Kona chapter has some testing. But what we're trying to do is raise funds to get our own test kit and start sampling regularly, and then hopefully collaborate too with the University of Hawaii or a lab here that can assess the test. So yeah, it's a great opportunity
We're
to
excited.
grow. But then, we wanted to do the testing because, like myself personally, I'm in the ocean all the time, and so my kids are in the ocean all the time. That's my personal link to this is they're getting sick all the time. Since they started paddling this season, they've been sick. They've had high fevers out of nowhere, no symptoms except 104 fever for maybe 5 days. And the two of them, I got two boys, and they go back and forth to this. So that was right after the Hilo Bay sewage slip. So it's a concern for me in our community if the system is 50 years outdated, and now all these cesspools need to go on it, and it'll add a heavier load. Something needs to be done. And this area of, I would call it negligence. Of course,
It's okay to say that.
it's also very, and I agree with the racism behind it. We need to be able to do our own testing.
Yes.
We need to be able to collect the data that's not being collected. And so it's wonderful. It's a wonderful opportunity. And it's island-wide. It's even bigger than that because we have the national Surfrider also behind it too. So the expertise comes from Dr. Berg and those that have been doing it on Kauai and Maui. So I feel like it'll shed a lot of light to the need. Not, of course, in Keaukaha, that's what this presentation is about,
Yes.
but also all of Hilo, and then hopefully our entire island.
We can start with the data that we're collecting, and then we can spread out our cancer clustering, our data collection for even, other areas that are not within Hawaiian homes. That, now that we're bringing it to the table, right? What we did find out, we wanted to bring this local level first, but then realize that our regulatory agencies are state and feds. So in order for our policy changes to be made, I think it has to go Fed level, and I don't know how to do that. Do you guys know how to do that? I was told we have to go make friends with our US senators and shots and at that level, it looks hard, but I'm excited. To get to that level, to take something, but we had to do our homework first. And I really appreciate this because that way we can get data, credible data, that you can compare. I've already gotten counties data, and I've already gotten state data, our DOH data, and compared them. There is no way of seeing any kind of consistency because they don't test the same place, and they test at different times. So, and I found out to get really good data, you have to be taking it during low tide. Low tide is when you get the bacteria more concentrated, and you'll find it there. So that was what I was told about staff in MRSA. So thank you very much.
Yeah.
And I wanted to share any more questions for her? Do you have any questions for Laura? I wanted her to introduce herself. She's with the Boys and Girls Club, our kids, and are here to, I know her, her advisor, or her boss. I know her boss, and she's actually a member of our Hawaiian community, but her boss is a good friend of mine and suggested she comes to our meeting because she works with kids. And also said that, well, you tell him what he told
Well,
you.
it does make an impact on our kids in our community because we actually do academy and mentor programs. But because of the sewage bill, we weren't able to go for these 2 weeks, you know. The kids were bummed, that's what they ended up doing. So I chose to be how I can make a difference for invoices of the kids that I help take care of, you know.
This summer, we've had a lot of children that parents would not let them go to the beach. And that's a bummer. I mean, we're in Hawaii and you can't go to the beach. That is a real bummer. So I wanted her to share because that's why she's here. She works with kids, and paddling is something that they, you know, recreational activities that they love to take the kids to do. Kids love that, to be in the ocean, and that's what they do, paddling with the Boys and Girls Club. And they weren't able to do it for 2 weeks. And what do you do with kids? You know, with that much energy, and it's not easy. So she came tonight, so I'm grateful. Now I'm going to give the gentleman here, the handsome gentleman, they're all here today. You please come up here, or one at a time, you guys organize and explain to our community what we're here. You know, we have a video, if you don't mind. The reason we do this is because we know that families are very busy, and although we have all of these issues, they get to watch it, and they do watch it. And that's probably why they're not here, you know, but they say, oh, I can watch the video, and that's okay. It does not bother me, because video exposure goes really far. It goes on Facebook and it goes everywhere. So we come, we have a small core group of people, and if we have to have, you know, government officials come, then we take the cafeteria and we have a bigger space for that to be done. But you have the floor.
So, hi everyone, my name is Andrew Huang, and I'm Vietnamese. I was born and raised in Southern California, and it's my first time in Hawaii. I love being on the Big Island. Everyone's very nice. It's very beautiful here. So I'm with the 97th Civil Affairs Battalion, and we come from North Carolina. One of the responsibilities of our job in civil affairs deals with humanitarian assistance and disaster relief. So we're here with the blessing of Sue to hear the concerns of the community, and we take back those concerns, and we don't have all the answers. Okay, we can't promise that we can fix everything because we aren't here for very long, but we can provide whatever it is that we can, or we will do our best to find ways that those concerns can be addressed. So ultimately, we're here for a little less than 2 weeks, and what it is for us is it's training for us down the line. My teammate Jeremy here, we are going to deploy within the next couple of weeks. And so all the experience and the help that we're getting will help us down the road. And so we're, again, very, very happy to be here, and we're grateful to be here at this meeting.
Yes. Sorry, we're all gonna get a chance.
I mean, you guys are training.
Good afternoon, aloha. Thank you all for having us here tonight. My name is Jeremy Barber. I've been doing my job for about 4, almost 5 years now, humanitarian assistance and disaster relief. I worked mostly over Southeast Asia, in the Philippines, in Indonesia, and in Singapore. I had actually, looking at this brief, I had some questions I wanted to ask on the geospatial side of it, because that's one of the things we do on our job, the geospatial imagery and things of that nature. So I'll ask you some questions a little bit later. But that's just a little bit about myself. On our team, we're made up of a team leader. He's unfortunately not here. He was at another meeting before we came here. Andrew is our medic. He didn't tell you all that, but he's our medic on our team. as well as we have an engineer on our team as well, and he does mostly geospatial type of work on our team. That's what kind of the engineering that we consider him, data managing and things of that nature. Today we brought with us our preventive medicine doctor from our battalion. That's one of the things that we can do. We synchronize efforts when we work into communities. We might not have the answer, but we can find the answer. We like to reach out to not only just our DoD partners, but some other agencies that we work with while we're deployed to actually find those answers. So I'll bring up the preventive med doc and he can introduce himself. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Owen Price. I'm an environmental science and engineering officer in the Army. I've been doing that for 15 years. My background is actually entomology, so studying like mosquitoes and ticks and how they transmit disease. I work with the Civil Affairs Battalion as sort of subject matter expertise. They deploy and work across a wide variety of subjects, and it's impossible to be an expert in all those subjects. So we provide them with subject matter expertise to assist them in their job, and my role here is to sort of advise and offer expertise in environmental science and public health. So they asked me to come along with them to listen to the concerns this evening, to see if I had any different thoughts or could offer any suggestions, and just to kind of listen. So the brief was very interesting, and at some point, you know, maybe we can discuss some I had a couple of things that popped into my head, so maybe we can talk after. But you know, it's a pleasure to be here, and I will pass it off to my colleague.
All right, good evening everybody. Thank you for having us. So my name is Merle. I'm originally from California. My mom's from Manila. I've been with this unit for just a short amount of time, a couple weeks now. I was lucky enough to get offered, hey, you're gonna go to Hawaii for a week, right? So my role here is to watch the team as they prepare themselves for future engagements, give some input, give some feedback, validate their efforts, and then provide feedback to our command team so that they know that these guys are prepared to move forward and be successful. As a civil affairs specialist myself, when I'm able to sit amongst the local populace and hear genuine concerns, it does help me as well learn. These are issues that are real world. They'll be real world in other places potentially, and in any way that we can figure out ways to just listen and help figure out, maybe channel, find avenues of approach to help address some of them. I mean, that would be great. And so that's where my mind is spinning right now, and genuine issues that need to be addressed. And that's what we do. So thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
And we have one more.
My name is Tom Miller. I am the battalion chaplain. So my job, when we're at Fort Bragg or wherever I happen to be stationed, is to ensure that the soldiers that I work with are emotionally, mentally, psychologically, spiritually well. So like a holistic approach to just soldier wellness. They deal with a lot of stress, they deal with, you know, different deployments and all that stuff. So I'm just come alongside them, provide marriage counseling, personal counseling for PTSD and different things like that. When we look at like deploying or doing exercise like this, then I try to translate that into where they're working. So if there's a disaster relief or a natural disaster or whatever, and we're doing like disaster relief work, I would also take those same ideas or principles and look at the community. Is the community's overall wellness, emotional, mental, psychological, spiritual needs being met, and are they taken care of? Because often we just focus on the problem at hand and we forget about the people. In this particular instance, when I came to civil affairs, I saw that a lot of what they do is the same stuff that I have to do as a chaplain. I come in kind of as an outsider. All of the soldiers that I work with, in this instance, are civil affairs soldiers. I'm a chaplain. I come in and I stay a few years and I leave. Prior to this, I was on Oahu with the 25th Infantry Division. Again, they're infantry soldiers. I come in for a little bit and I leave. And so I have to build rapport with them in a short period of time to gain their trust and things like that. I have to be sensitive to cultural and social awareness. So when I saw what they do specifically, the same kind of thing when they deploy, they go in as outsiders, and they have to be able to gain the trust of the community and learn how to work with them and interpersonal skills. So that's what I'm doing here today, is just kind of watching how they interact with people and how they're building rapport, and if they're being culturally and socially aware and things of that nature. So that's what I'm doing here. I'll tell you this, if I can, just another 30 seconds. So while I lived on Oahu, I fell in love with Hawaii. But it wasn't so, the climate's great, the ocean's great, I love it, I love being in the ocean. Scuba diving, I agree, I was surprised when I got under the waters and saw the coral. It's not what I had expected it would be, so I hear what you're saying, and I love the water. But more than that, I love the people. The ohana, the aloha spirit, to have my little neighbor kids coming in and calling my wife auntie and me uncle, and I've never experienced anything like that in my life. And so I love Hawaii, I love you guys, and I thank you for letting me be here.
Thank you very much. Sue and both of you to just give an update of what we're doing in our community. Or in,
Thank you. Thank you, folks. Thank you, Peter. Yeah, I'm not too sure where to start, but I'll start with, so this particular council district, and we mentioned the assets, but we have more assets than that. We have 8 beach parks, we have a lot of agricultural lands, we have a zoo, and I'm pretty proud of that, because my district got the zoo, nobody else got a tiger. 2, I got 2 tigers, nobody else has got a tiger.
actually a lot.
No, yeah. And so for us, Council District 3 is extremely special. And just to speak to that point, we love where we grow up. We love it here. And that's why this is so critically important to us. And just like Terry mentioned, because our community, and it always starts with a harbor or an airport. That's how the industries come in. And then, and as an environmental student, you get how they expand off of that. And it's just a natural growth pattern that occurs. Unfortunately, it's a community that started, and this particular community is 85, 89 years old. This is one of the first homestay communities here. So, we've been in existence for a long time. But like Terry said, we've shouldered a lot of the burdens. And unfortunately, because of the natural growth patterns that just happened, because the infrastructure, right? The roads always lead to the airport or the harbor, right? I mean, it's these natural growth patterns that occur, and that's what we're hoping to transition away from. That there is better technology out there. There's smarter engineers now. Just new technology. That we don't really need to rely on infrastructure like our roads, like our airports, like our harbors to carry the burdens. And so for me and my role over at the council, that's what I'm trying to look at, is how do I shift these growth patterns in a very positive but unique way to get other communities ready, because they gotta start sharing in those burdens. But also to a large degree, as a council member, how do we financially plan and fund for those? So one other thing that Terry did mention is, we have all these layers of government. And one thing with the asset fund that I hope to achieve is creating a third party that would become a clearinghouse for a lot of this information. Because like Terry said, Department of Health, they don't want to communicate, they stay in their silos, right? They want to hold on to their data, they're not sure how it's going to impact them, let alone impact their funding, right? So that information is extremely valuable, but could also be very detrimental. So ideally, kind of morphing this asset fund it would be ideal to have a third-party clearinghouse where Department of Transportation could dump their information, Department of Health could dump their information, counties' environmental management could dump their information. And our community partners like Boys and Girls Club or OHA or some of the other communities where they can just go dump their information, and then we could use some of that technical training, that technical expertise, and look at other models that we use across the planet on how to take this information and then spit it back out. That one, it's credible, right? That will be the driver for these industries and how to plan around them, or the communities that they impact, what they need. So that's the bigger goal. It's a big goal. It's a long range goal. So having Terry come to our council meeting next week or maybe
August
second.
Oh, first, sorry.
That's August 1st. That's just one step, sharing the information, sharing the narrative, that's always the biggest first step. So like Terry said, those geospatial things, we have a lot of information at the planning department with GIS and mapping and our draw files, that somehow if we could technically take all these layers and overlay them with some of the health studies, that would actually drive some of the growth patterns in a manner. I really believe that's how communities should work. Unfortunately, the shortest distance from the harbor to the airport, it's like they build them so close because the roads only got to be a mile apart. If it's 22 miles apart, that's a lot of money. So.
And everything's relying on the distance, and even pumping the fuel to the power plants and everything, shortest distance is least expensive.
It's always the least expensive. So, and somehow we gotta turn the battleship, a few degrees away from that.
And I'd like to, don't go, because I wanted to also participate. But I wanted to also bring, a little history to how far back the idea of having the harbors and all of this industry here started over 100-something years ago. The very first harbor that was put was where Suisun Bridge is, the Wailo River. So it goes back history which is a cause of a lot of sore, and hurt feelings and amongst our Native people. Because in order for industry to come here, it was implemented by military at the time, also plantation economics, and it all stemmed from the overthrow, from the time that our queen was put in prison and snowballing to this day. So you have a lot of that history is also embedded in how things have evolved here in this community. And a lot of the distrust comes from our group of people because of the fact that they were displaced from being subsistence gatherers who relied on our land, who relied on the ocean and our forest to gather food. That's how they survived hundreds of years prior to Western man coming here. So this evolution of Western man coming and teaching different spiritual backgrounds is in a nutshell what's happening to our people, and the health, the degradation of health, our emotions. All of this has a lot to play in development. However, we are, on being on this side with our community, we've not had enough time since then to come to the decision-making table and be a part of the population growth and development process that has been in decision-making that has been made for decades. So you have that disconnect between our people and the policymakers and government that makes all of these rules and regulations, and leave our people out at the decision-making table. And when I say that they leave us out at the decision-making table, this is where the problem is, because a lot of our environmental policies and in our environmental impacts assessment and impact statements have to address the impacts of one culture, and that is our people. So this is hugely a problem, because the decisions that are being made by policymakers and government and rules and regulations that put in place the laws that protect our environment and the health of our people leave the very people out that should be part of the environmental assessment, is what I'm saying. So a lot of the grandfathered in companies that were placed in, when we say grandfathered in, they were placed in before the environmental assessments were even in place here in Hawaii. Our environmental assessments and environmental impact statements was not in place until the 70s, and I'd say 79. So you see how new that is. So everything that was put in place prior is called grandfathered in. So how do you remedy something that has gone through a process of, without fairness to the people that believe that they come with this land? You see, I mean, that's one thing that they don't take into consideration. Our people were here first, and they did know how to take care of this land. So anything foreign that in development is what's wrong here. I think it is not. I'm telling you, there's no mesh to it. So we have to organize like this and become scientists and become politicians on our own. I'm a business person, and I live in this community, but I had to teach myself this in order for me to substantiate my claims of what's happening to the health of our people. So that's why we're here today, and I'm going to end here, but before, Peter, do you have something that you want to say? Thank you.
I really don't, and I'm just here to support the council member in whatever things that needs to be done. Our office is open regular business hours, Monday to Friday. You can call us at 961-8396. You can write to Sue at sue.levi@hawaiicounty.gov. And really, I want to thank you, Terry, for inviting us.
Thank you
for coming here and hopefully doing whatever it is to find solutions to, I know Tom was asking me, what can you do about these things? And I answered honestly, that's a good question.
Yeah.
It's a long history, Terry mentioned it, goes back to not just 1893, but during World War II, when we were under martial law here in the islands after the attack on Pearl Harbor. So, my grandfather was, the day after the Pearl Harbor attack, he was called back from Schofield to Pearl Harbor to evacuate the dead and the wounded from the attack site, and then I guess he spent the next 2 months fortifying the beaches around the Walker.
Wow,
Yeah.
you've got history.
I do. So, and then he went to the Solomon Islands. But anyway, it's a long history, a lot of challenges, but it's
We'll
part
work
of
hard.
it. Right.
We'll work on it.
Good information makes good decisions. That's nice to say.
And I've met Peter because he was working with the Hawaii Tribune Herald, so he knows a lot. He's been around, he's got the scoops, he was a reporter, so he knows everything. And that's how I know Peter, years now. And so I appreciate it, Peter. Okay, so I thank you. So this is what we have. We have a health study that's being circulated here. We have a campaign to get people to vote. I have shirts coming up that says, "Vote your voice." And I have a group of people that are willing to go house to house, knocking on the doors to let people know, you guys gotta vote, and Darren is not here. Darren is in Sue's office. Darren was in this very room and videotaped and said something that I think shook up everybody, but it's the truth. And what he said was,
The world is run by those who show up.
and that's exactly right. The world is run by those who show up. But he also said another thing about our people. in our community, and it was, they don't care about you because our votes are very low. 145, knowing that we have at least 1,500 people in our community voted last year. And so when you're a politician and you need to go run for office, you think you're gonna come to this community to go and ask, you know, for their help to support us for voting? He actually came here and said, he told her, don't even spend your time in this community, go elsewhere. And, you know, I'm glad he said that, because it is the truth. You need to hear the truth in order for you to understand how true what he said. I mean, it may have come off kind of rough to some people, but to me, I was like, yeah, because it is the truth. If politics and policies are made by changes of law through you and our people, you need a vote. I'm sorry, that's just the way it is. So with that line, so how did I do with this PowerPoint?
Yeah, great, I think,
Gosh, it's driving me crazy because my computer is very old, but it's doing something, you know. I'm gonna get this to Eileen O'Hara before. Hopefully we can get more people at the county council, and even if they don't come, that's okay. This is just something that needs to be documented and heard by our government officials, you know. So we just keep going. We keep collaborating with groups like Boys and Girls Club, like Surf Rider, to come up with questions, to come up with answers in term time. Policies take long, we all know that. But there are issues that are pertinent because it's the health of our people. So whatever it needs to be done in between, we need to take care of that. And we can talk about that right now. That's not the right time, is it? 7:40. 7:40, wow, that's pretty good. So I'm gonna end, we've got some unhealthy, but hey, that was quick, something that we can actually have. We have some coffee, we have some water over here, but we can, for those who wanna stay, and like we can put the chairs around and discuss your ideas. I kinda wanted to end this portion. This is what we were talking about on our agenda, and that was the legislation that needs to be proposed for emergency response. Also for, this is, you know, needs to be updated. This is the county emergency plan for this area that needs to be updated, and I think they're discussing that too. Anything else you guys need to say? Can we, do you guys need to go? You guys can, Ellie, if you want to. Okay, good. Make a circle and let's talk. And if you have some questions about the, about the mapping, if you have questions about the health study, if you want to crack open the tips, I know you guys are like, you guys run every day, so you guys think for it. Bulk. Okay. You can have turn the chair around and I think.
I do have one question. For the emergency response for the explosions, where is the closest one for that type of explosion?
The closest would be right here, and that would be the gas, the natural gas company.
Okay.
And then we used to have the oil company next to that, Aloha Petroleum. And then on this side was the wastewater treatment. So they're still here. Wastewater is still here, right in the front. And then right next door was Aloha Petroleum. And then right next to that was the natural gas company. It's called Hawaiian Gas. So there's a big ball there. There was an incident, I think, I don't know if it was in America, but I have to go and find it, where it was a gas tank twice the size as the one that's less than 300 feet away from our people, that actually blew and took out a 7-mile radius. And so this would have, this is actually bigger than the one that blew. So that little gas thing, it leaks a lot. The natural gas company, they leak a lot. We have now got civil defense, and we've now got emergency responders, hazmat teams that, because they don't have a streamlined system that's going to immediately let the residents know. that there was a leak. You smell it, and then you know there's a leak. But by that time, everybody's, it's already permeated our community for miles. So how do you assess this kind of issue? You have leaks that, and they don't have an emergency response plan available. All of these facilities, right now, our first responders don't have an evacuation plan on hand with the chemicals that they are supposed to report.
When you say first responders, do you mean your community first responders or the company's first
Actually, no,
responders?
our community first responders who are with county. So that would be fire, civil defense, police officers, they would be our EMS, hospitals, and hazmat. So these are all the county level first responders. So we have a local committee that's called Local Emergency Planning Committee. And this is a consortium of first responders that are involved. Also, they've invited community and they've also invited companies that have a high risk of emergency, or disaster or hazard. So a lot of these companies that I've mentioned are asked to be at the table of this committee. Every county in the state of Hawaii has a committee like this, and they fall under the state emergency committee, emergency response committee. And this committee is statewide. There's a board and there's a commission, and this is sort of like a county level, local level committee under that. And they are here to address companies that have to report to EPA their chemicals, their use of chemicals, and because they're required to hazmat. So they were required to have all the list of chemicals that they have on the planet. And they have to report to EPA their emissions. But their report is only annual. So you don't get first-hand information of leaks immediately. These are reported at the end of the year. So what is being followed up on checks and balances is really not there. So if we had a leak just not too long ago with BEI. BEI is a chemical company that carries poison, fertilizers, and it's in the middle of a residential area in Waiakea, which is not too far from here. They had a leak in one of their pipes, and by the time they assessed where it was and how bad it was, and to call hazmat, the fire department, and to train people with the hazmat training, it was already permeated into the community, and it's for miles. So whatever leaked hit people in the community so fast, they would have never been able to assess if it was that deadly, quickly, because they didn't know what chemicals they had, that they were dealing with until they went to the pipes and found out where the pipes are. So when the team gets to the site, they have to be covered, they have to be equipped. Now their suit, I was told, is $3,000 $1,500 to $3,000 just one, and they can't afford a lot for their team. So we find that as a huge problem. So for emergency response, they've got to come up with a better system. We're just lucky we don't, that day we didn't have a lot of people ingesting that chemical. The owner of that company actually ingested some of it. He was the one that went to assess it, and it damaged his lungs.
Where's the closest emergency response spillage or just explosion response team located that is equipped? Is it Oahu or?
It's here. It's
Is it
on Keaukaha Street. Actually, there's a fire department here, but they're in the tsunami zone as well. They would also have to be able to leave that side, you know, and when they do have a tsunami evacuation, they close that street by the harbor. So no one is allowed to go this way. So they would have to go out through the airport. They had problems that, when I remember this, because we've had to evacuate so many times. Packing up everything in our truck, and then we're all standing in line to get out this way before the evacuation routes were even available. I mean, if there really were a tsunami, we would have all been dead, you know, because they've got the harbor, you know, you've got gas storage companies over there. They were trucking their gas out of here. You know, we couldn't even get out of here. So that was a huge problem, and that's the reason why they brought more evacuation routes out of here. But they had a problem with this too now. Everybody needs to get out of here, sirens going on, and that was like last year sometime, right? Was it last year or the year before?
Year and a half.
Year and a half ago. And we were all waiting at the evacuation gates.
It was locked.
It was locked, we couldn't get out. And they wouldn't, the security guards on that side would not open it. They said, I'm sorry, we can't open it, because they weren't given the okay to open it. And we're like, really? You know, so that was another problem. There's a lot of things that needs to be fixed here. You know, and how do you do that is just by, you know, meeting like this, talking, making sure that our county councilwoman gets here, our mayor finds out, but it's a process. But how long has this been going on? If we don't have it in place now, then it was never in place,
So,
ever.
Auntie Terry,
Yes,
the fire department on Keaukaha Street,
yes.
they're not equipped with hazmat gear. For
Not fully equipped,
yeah. Because as far as I know, Kaumana has a hazmat, but perhaps they're not equipped for this kind of.
They're actually,
I think it's a pretty small operation,
yeah,
from what I understand.
there are very few that are trained hazmat
Right.
in our fire department, very few.
It's Kaumana.
Something something I just jotted down, and that's something that you can highlight when you do take it to the board. You know, you can have it overlaid out, like this is where our closest response team is for if these events happen. If it's 6 hours away, 7 hours away, you know, then you can start doing other overlays as well.
Yeah.
I will put that on the,
Yeah, you can do other overlays that show like, well, if they don't get here in 7 hours and there is a spillage or explosion, this is, you know, what could happen. from
scenario.
that. Exactly, yes ma'am.
time, how far they are, where they're at. That's a good idea.
It might be a walking.
I'll put
Yeah,
that.
that's what I was thinking, that when you said it wasn't here, the next thing I was asked, was it Kona or was it Oahu to get here?
We've had problems even with Pahoa. You know, there's only one way out of Pahoa too. You know, the Puna people, Jerry Ruggles district, and Harris district. There's only one way in and out. And with the volcano disasters, right? We've had a lot of people that were, and hurricane. We had a hurricane in the south that had a lot of people trapped. They couldn't get out, and so that is still an ongoing problem with this island. You know? So I mean, we live on an island, so I think there's got to be ways to plan all this. But we notice that a lot of it is because we don't have the money. So what do you do in the meantime if you don't have money?
Have you looked at what the company's responsibility is to provide their own first response? And depending on the chemicals they have and the amount, by the code federal regulation, they're required to be the first response. They're required to have hazmat technicians. They're required to establish incident command. Have you looked into that, or they just not have it?
Yes, actually, at the LAPC, we were discussing it because this is something that our community brought up to the committee. And that question did come up about the responsibility of these toxic facilities. If you're considered a TRI company, you're a company that actually emits pollution in the water, in the air, or something, because you have toxic chemicals that are being released or used to produce pollution. So they become like, that's when we have to understand what the tiers are and how they become tier 1s and tier 2s. And that gives you the level of risk that company has with the amount of emissions and the amount of employees they have. Yeah, so some companies are not even considered a tier because they have this criteria of the amount of employees. So they have a list of criteria for you to become a tier 1, a tier 2. So some people are not required to even report to EPA your emissions. So there are a lot of companies out here that are not actually reporting to EPA because they're small, but they're emitting pollution. So there's no checks and balances to the amount of people that are actually emitting pollution into the air, and no checks and balances to that. So what we were trying to find out from these companies is if they have an evacuation plan, does it include the residents near them? We wouldn't know because none of their evacuation plans were ever shared to our first responders. So right now, our committee is trying to get these companies to participate. We say participate, or do we force them to give our first responders their evacuation plans? That's what they're working on now. How are they going to get these companies to give their evacuation plan? And is it updated? And does it include not only your employees? So that's something that we have to investigate. We don't have it. First responders are having. Do you have any questions about?
I wondered, you talked about moving from cesspools to the sewer system, and clearly the wastewater treatment plant is having issues now, capacity it's taking. Whoever's paying for that or requiring that, would they be amenable to using septic systems and installing septic systems in the homes so that because cesspools aren't good either, and it's going into the groundwater, and that's all eventually going into the bay as well. So septic tanks being a better alternative that wouldn't extra stress the sewer plant.
Our county is now working with EPA to figure out other alternatives for people. They have to transition. They have to get families to convert.
Right.
But there becomes a problem with how they do that. Are there going to be incentives for families that cannot afford a septic tank? They've got to come up with ideas as to how they're going to transition families that are on fixed income, especially our elders that have been in their homes forever, and they're at the age that they're retired, they no longer work, to force them to have to convert their homes and to pay for a septic. And that's a lot of our families here in this community. And if you saw, I have all those dots on one of my slides are the amount of people in Hilo alone that are on septic. That are on cesspool. So you're looking at people, they were looking at people tapping into these pipes. And I don't think that's a great idea, and they're gonna get some pushback with that out here, at least from me, they're not taking into consideration the responsibility they have now with what sewage they're pumping up through our bay,
Right.
let alone have everybody convert to this sewer pipe out to this bay. It's just not gonna happen. We're not gonna allow it to happen. It's just not gonna happen. And, that's my opinion, of course, but I'm gonna work to try to make sure that they come up with better alternatives for them. But that's a problem, the transition, and I'm sure our Department of Environmental Manager is gonna have to pull his hair on this one. He is already.
It's a significant challenge.
Yeah, it's a huge challenge.
And I wondered, and I haven't looked, I've never been in a place that sewer is discharged into the ocean. My understanding is that it has to be discharged at a depth of 130 feet, and that ideally that would, it's deep enough that it wouldn't come back to the coastline. So I wondered, I'm used to discharges into rivers, and to discharge into a river, the effluent has to be treated to a certain level. There has to be a minimum number of disposable solids and those kinds of things, and it has to have a certain chlorine residual. I wondered if the wastewater treatment plant or the water and sewer division would be amenable to looking at better treating the water so that it's a higher quality effluent before it goes into the bay. And that way, if it's leaking, it's at a quality that's not going to be harmful and doesn't ever reach that 130-foot depth. And looking at those, the differences in the requirements of effluent for a river versus an ocean, with it would require system upgrades, but is that a way that could protect the bay by putting in higher quality effluents into the water?
There are actually alternatives that don't even have to go into the ocean or in a river. You know, they have systems like biodigesters, you know, that go through the systems with taking out the pathogen bacteria before they even get to a level where they can be, you know, high level nutrients for other bacteria to grow, even the fecal matter bacteria. So these are some of the things that we were actually trying to propose, you know, for alternatives. In fact, some of our families are looking, you know, our families, our people in our community are actually sending in some of their ideas so that they don't have to put the, you know, it's an outdated technique. These pipes are never going to get, you know, to be, you know, capable of holding any more sewage. They're saying that it's clean. Whatever they're doing is going into our ocean clean. That's what they're saying. We don't trust them, so we're going to have our own testing done. Because there's just so many reasons why we think they cannot come up with that kind of conclusion. You know, they've had so many leaks and they've got cracks in our pipes that are out here for decades. So how can you say that the water's clean, especially if you have cracks on land? And I know that one of the administrative order in violation they had was because the cracks are in land and not out in the outfall.
Yes. Right.
That's one of the reasons that they had this violation, and they were cited for it because the cracks are still on land. So could it be that our families that are swimming near in this bay are getting sick because the fecal matter in high concentration is leaking here on land, creating a high nutrient level for bacteria, other bacteria to grow, like staph and MRSA. You know, they say staph is everywhere, but with high nutrient levels, it's going to thrive even more in areas like this. And they say that it's in the sand and, you know, in the ground and the rocks and the reefs. So our coral, you saw our coral. I went to a coral meeting and saw what a thriving coral colony and population should look like. And that does not look like the coral I see out in our Puhi Bay. And so we're hoping that we can get the university, then again you need funding to get this project going where they can do an epizoological study in our coral population outside. Army Corps of Engineers is part of the permitting process. And they are an entity that regulates the use of development on the shoreline and marine life and coral. So this development in the 70s, where the pipe went on top of coral beds, they've actually had to remove beds, coral population, and relocate them. So our question, you know, to even Army Corps of Engineers, you know, how do you, within the years, do you, as you know, part of that permitting process, actually have a team that actually goes and checks this coral population? And have you ever done that before? I mean, are you required to do that? Do you come back and check to make sure that what was developed on this coral population is actually, did it actually take? So some of our scientists said the chances of that coral that was taken out from the shoreline and placed somewhere else, they have very little chance of actually growing and thriving. And then they said this doctor that did studies, coral studies, also said that the same percentage of diseased and dying coral colonies and population, the same percentage of marine life that rely on this ecosystem will also be depleted and dying as well.
Yeah, it's all system.
It's a complete system. And so we're also asking that they do a study, not only on that, an epidemiological study, but an zoological study in the water as well, because we wanted to replenish our shoreline. But before we do that, we have to prove that there's something wrong with that coral, marine life. They have to do studies, they have to do, to see if there's actually a decline. Governor Ige actually signed a bill for a ban, a 10-year ban on the west side from point A to point B at Four Seasons Hotel, in front of Four Seasons Hotel. And banning anybody from fishing there because they said, experts said, that there's a fish decline in that area from point A to point B. So they actually have a fish marine reserve that he signed. So you cannot fish there for 10 years because they're waiting for it to thrive again. But they're saying their reason was because it was overfished. So why wouldn't the governor do that here? For a reason that bacteria levels are high in this area. Why wouldn't we present the idea of replenishment, a marine replenishment in front of our community waters from point A to point B by the outfall? So what we're saying is we need to have these studies done to prove that this is actually part of the source that is devastating our marine life. You see what I'm saying? So this is where we're actually at right now.
Right.
That takes money.
It does, right.
And that takes connections to higher levels of people. I don't know how we're going to do this, but I think we've educated ourselves pretty well in our community.
Yeah, for sure.
So any more questions? I'm sorry.
No.
No, but I got a text. I got a text from you.
Gotta go.
I just got one more thing, or just a suggestion. Maybe on the overlays where you show how close the actual companies are to the homeland states, maybe you could do a population density map, or just show like the actual population of the homesteads and the density of the homesteads in the surrounding areas as well. That might help out and depict like, hey, this is how many people, close to here that live in this area that are affected by these areas as well. Just more depicting facts, and they can't take away facts.
That's a great idea. We'll take that into consideration. I think the student would love to have that. All she needs to do is to get the spatial files that are already available, population, and it's out there. And she takes that because it's credible information. It's not like we're coming up with our own data. Even if I get data, like this cancer clustering, it has to go through a credible source to identify, this kind of human data that we're collecting. So, thank you. That's a great idea. We'll take that into consideration. You guys gotta go. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, have some chips.
You want someone to eat it?